To this story now, we've got matters of state capture, where the state capture report made damning revelations about SAA and its subsidiaries, Air Chefs as well as SAA Express. The report finds that a board member cancelled an 85 million rand tender and handed it to Air Chefs without following due process. So let's get more details from our reporter now who joins us, Heidi Giokos. Heidi, always a pleasure speaking to you. Tell us about why Air Chefs was a service at SAA lounges and why it changed.
Yes, certainly. So we do know that a couple of years back, about 2015, Air Chefs provided a service to SAA lounges. And when there was a revamp for these SAA lounges, there was a complaint that came through that the standard was not what customers had wanted. It was very poor service. The food was very bad. And this is when they decided to put out a tender. And we do know that when the tender was put out, a number of companies applied for that, but Air Chefs was not the preferred bidder. It was not the preferred company, even though it was a state-owned company, because of how low the standard actually was. And we do understand thereafter a company was appointed, and this was all sent to the board, as well as to the chairperson of the board, which was Dudu Myeni at the time. The acting CEO of SAA, Thuli Mshe, had sent out this to the board and said, we've changed the service provider, it's no longer going to be Air Chefs, and you should be aware of this. She got no response. But then things started unraveling once in Parliament when they were before SCOPA, and people started asking questions as to why Air Chefs was changed and a new company came in. It appears as though, according to the evidence by the various management at SAA at the time, that people started asking why a German company was appointed and why it was not Air Chefs. And apparently, according to evidence provided and from what the state capture report has identified, Dudu Myeni then said, why is a German company cooking food and why is it not Air Chefs? So things started unraveling at that time, Faith.
Well, SAA CEO at the time tells the Commission about the interaction with the then chair, Dudu Myeni, and how she insisted it was a German company taking over, as you're suggesting.
Yes, and I think it's important to highlight that we're talking about an 85 million rand contract that was signed off. It was a new company that was going to take off, and there was this perception that it was a German company when it wasn't actually. But there seemed to have been quite an argument outside Parliament when they were waiting to leave to come back to Johannesburg, and Dudu Myeni then passed the remark to Thuli Mshe at the time and said, why are you making German people cook for us and not a South African company? And she went as far as to say, do black people not know how to cook? Why is a German company being used? And Thuli Mshe at the time said, but I told you, and I emailed the board, this was on the 30th of September, that it's going to be a new company. It's not a German company. It's a South African company employing South Africans, and it's going to be providing a service. The deal, Faith, was cancelled at the very last minute. It was changed back to Air Chefs, despite the fact that Air Chefs did not meet the requirements and the requisites to be part of this tender and to provide the service, only because Dudu Myeni, who was the chairperson of the SA board, said, we will not allow a German company to provide the service, and black people do know how to cook. And I want us to listen to Thuli Mshe telling the State Capture Inquiry about this interaction.
I was highly irate, and she said to me, you mean black people can't cook?
Who is she now?
Miss Myeni.
Yes, okay.
And she says to me, you mean black people can't cook?
What did she mean by that?
Because the company now is perceived to be a German company.
Yes.
And this award has been, tender award has been given to the German company. She then says that it means it's German people who, the connotation is German people will cook. So do I mean that black people can't cook?
Miss Mshe, do you know what, because your lounges were being serviced by Air Chefs.
Hang on, Ms. Buthelezi.
Yes.
She hasn't finished telling us about her conversation with the chairperson.
Oh, maybe I should.
She has just told us the chairperson asked her, do you mean black people can't cook? Let's hear the story. How did you respond?
I responded by saying, I think maybe we should discuss this at the office. because my correspondence to her of the 30th outlines exactly the process that was taken. And I moved away from her to stand, just with other colleagues.
You were very unhappy.
She was irritated, beraging me in front of the colleagues.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
You may continue.
Yes.
Was that the end of the conversation at that stage then with her?
In Cape Town. That was the end of the conversation in Cape Town.
Heidi, let's take a look at SA Express. We've also got the Northwest government that's also been fingered in all of this. How so?
Yes, certainly. So I think another shocking revelation about SA Express, and the reason why this was an important one to be identified in the state capture report is because SA Express remains in provisional liquidation for the past 2 years. Over 600 staff members have lost their jobs, and we're all trying to understand what contributed to the demise of SA Express. But we do understand that the Northwest government was involved. The Northwest government decided to revamp its airport in about 2015, and if we can just pull up that graphic where it clearly shows that there were about 4 bidders, including SAA Link, that was also part of the bidding process. But it seems as though the eyes were set on SA Express. Why were the eyes set on SA Express? We do know that it was a ploy to try and get the Northwest government to siphon out money out of the provincial government into SA Express to benefit certain individuals, key executives in that government, as well as the ruling party, which is the ANC. And then we do know that SA Express was, in fact, the most expensive company, despite the fact that the state capture report says evidence provided said that all the other airlines would cost the South African government and would put pressure on the South African government. But at the end of the day, it seems as though it just contributed to the demise. And then we also do know that Job Magoro, who was the acting director general in the Premier's office at the time, signed off on this deal. And he was, in fact, saying he doesn't understand why he needs to be involved. He was an accounting officer at the time. He was not a procurement officer. So why should he be held responsible for this? But, Faith, it goes back to the fact that you had these state-owned entities that were being used to enrich certain individuals. And you see it in the state of these state-owned entities at the moment. SAA being in business rescue for a long period of time, SA Express being in provisional liquidation. And all of this is now unraveling in the state capture inquiry, where you are seeing over 400 million rand that was siphoned out of the Northwest government into SA Express and then into certain people's bank accounts just to enrich them and not provide the service that the state-owned entities are there for.
Heidi, there's certainly stuff that makes your actual hair crawl, and it's just unraveling. As it unravels, I'm sure we'll keep you up to date with it. We'll leave it there. Our reporter Heidi Giokos giving us the latest in terms of just some of the findings that are coming out of this more than 800 pages, about 867 pages or so. This is just the first, right, of the first of 3 in terms of that report that has come out by the Deputy Chief Justice. But